The Secret Box by Whitaker Ringwald. Chapter 6. Jax. It turned out my family had a whole bunch of secrets that were as juicy as grapes. There was the secret about my father, a man my mom always refused to talk about. He did the biological bit, helped create me, then disappeared never to be seen from again. No matter how much I pleaded, no matter how much I snooped, I never learned anything more about him. I knew that Mom and Aunt Kathy were keeping something from me because there were lots of times when I'd walk into a room and their conversation would stop. So I tried to spy. Whenever my mom and my aunt were in a huddle, I'd stick in my earbuds and pretend to be listening to music, but the eavesdropping never worked. The cup to the wall thing didn't work either. And each time I lay on the floor and tried to listen under the door, I ended up inhaling dust balls and my coughing gave me away. But now there was a new secret. A great aunt, Juniper Vandergrift. What a cool name! It sounded important. According to the return address, she didn't live very far away. But why had she and Mom gotten into a fight? Clearly it was a big deal. Otherwise, she'd visit us during the holidays. We'd talk on the phone. We'd do all the normal things people do with their great aunts, like open birthday presents. As usual, I didn't have much money in my wallet, but Ethan did, and he offered to buy my train ticket. I hate feeling like a charity case, so while he stood at the ticket machine, I thought about jumping the turnstile. The transit police were nowhere to be seen. I could probably get away with it. Here, he said, handing me a round trip ticket. Thanks, I'll pay you back. What would I do without Ethan? I gave him a hug. He turned red and tugged his baseball cap down. We settled into some seats, the box tucked safely into my backpack, which I kept on my lap so no one could steal it. Is it hot in here? I asked. No, he pointed to a vent. The air conditioner is on. I wrapped my arms around the backpack. Sure feels hot to me. An hour later, we got off at Penn Station in New York City. This has to be one of the most exciting places in the world. Every kind of sound, every kind of smell, every kind of person, every kind of food, all underground. Hoagies, gyros, iced coffees, turbans, dreadlocks, braids, brakes screeching, heels pounding, perfume mixing with BO. Everyone going somewhere fast. A gigantic board showed all the destinations to choose from. Ethan, isn't this great? Where was he? Clutching the backpack, I spun around. Ethan? He stood next to a vending machine, his back pressed against the station wall, his eyes wide. Poor guy. He hated crowds. Are you okay? It's too loud. He looked like he might get sick. We won't stay long, I assured him. Do you think the GPS unit will work down here? We should probably go up to street level. He followed me up the escalator. The city greeted us with honking horns, bright sunlight, and tons of tourists wearing I Love New York City t-shirts and posing for photos. We found a spot under an awning. I opened the backpack, pulled out the box, and pressed the button. Huddled together, Ethan and I watched as the screen lit up. Attempt 7 of 10. 206 miles from the right spot. Goodbye. Can we go now? Ethan asked, chewing on his lower lip. Sure. We were pretty quiet on the train ride back. Ethan read some tourist brochures. No doubt he'd be sharing facts with me. Kids teased him when he did that at school. They didn't understand it was his way of trying to be friendly. I stared at the commuters, wondering if any could be my great Aunt Juniper. Did she have black frizzy hair like me, or shaggy brown hair like Ethan? Was she shy or outgoing? Did she like purple? I wrapped my arms tightly around the backpack. Why was Mom mad at her? As soon as we got to my house, we hurried up to my room. It was almost dinner time, but Mom wasn't home yet. Ethan texted Aunt Kathy to tell her that he'd be home in an hour. After setting the box on my bed, I found a compass and a ruler in the back of my desk drawer. Then I tried to remember Tyler's instructions. Make a circle, draw a line, something about geometry. I hadn't paid much attention in geometry. News alert! Measuring angles and lines is about as exciting as clipping your toenails. Those minutes in class had ticked so slowly, I started to think that somebody had poured molasses into the clock. What are we supposed to do again? I asked Ethan. He downloaded a map of the eastern coast of the United States, printed it, then set it on my desk. The first readings were roughly 190. Slowly and precisely, he drew a line just like Tyler had drawn. Then, using a compass, he created a circle. I leaned over his shoulder. You're breathing in my ear. Oh, sorry, I said. He arranged the ruler. The reading we did in New York was 206. Ever so slowly, he drew another line. I tapped my feet. You're not getting graded on this, so hurry up, I almost said. He drew another circle. We both leaned over the map. The circles intersected in two places. I pointed to one of the intersections, which lay in the middle of Lake Oneida in New York State. We'll need a boat if we want to go there. I don't know how we'd do that. I pointed to the second intersection. Hey, that's Washington, D.C. That's easy to get to. Let's try that first. You want to go to D.C.? Ethan asked. I want to open the box. D.C. makes a lot more sense than a lake. Besides, Juniper wouldn't send me out on the water. That would be totally dangerous. Ethan chewed on the end of his pencil. Do you think your mom will let you take the train to D.C.? I sat on the edge of my bed and released a long sigh like a leaking balloon. No way would Mom let me go to Washington, D.C. on my own. She was as protective as a mama bear. I think being a single parent made her feel that she had to be both my dad and my mom, so she went a little crazy sometimes trying to fill both roles. And I'd gotten into trouble lately, so she didn't totally trust me anymore. She was still mad at me for the whole grocery store incident. Let's get one thing straight. I'm not a shoplifter. I was just wondering how it would feel. I was standing in the candy section and I thought about how easy it would be to stick a Snickers bar up my sleeve. If I acted normal, no one would know. I could walk right out the door. So I did. But as soon as I got outside, I felt bad and I turned around to put it back. I wasn't fast enough. Turns out they have security cameras all over the place and someone had been watching me. The manager called Mom and I thought she was going to explode when she stormed into the office at the back of the store. Jacqueline Alice Malone, she hissed, her face bright red. What were you thinking? She was wearing her apron and name tag from the diner. I didn't know how to explain it. I'm sorry. The manager agreed not to call the police as long as I didn't come into a store again without adult supervision. I felt like a baby who needed a sitter. Why? Mom asked when we got into the car. Why would you steal? I just wanted to try it, I said with a shrug. I was going to put it back. You wanted to try it? She gripped the steering wheel until her fingers turned white. Have you done this before? I shook my head. She took a long breath, released her hands, and looked into my eyes. Listen to me very carefully. Stealing is wrong, and it's not the life I want for you. Life? What are you talking about? Geez, was she overreacting or what? It was just a candy bar. It's not like I'm trying to be a career criminal. Career criminal? She clenched her jaw. Don't do it again. Ever. Do you promise? Yeah, okay, I won't do it again. I hadn't told Ethan. It was way too embarrassing. I'd shared most everything with him, but not that. So how could I get to Washington, D.C.? If the candy bar incident had happened a few months ago, maybe Mom would have cooled off by now. But it had happened just last week, so the memory was still fresh. We're going to have to get someone to take us, said Ethan. Us? He groaned. When did I volunteer? He hadn't, of course, but we were partners. We'll need a chaperone. Who? Tyler, I said. Ethan cringed. No way. I am not driving all the way to Washington, D.C. with my brother. Why not? He's got a driver's license and a car. Why not? Ethan's voice cracked. It had started doing that lately. Well, the first reason is because he's a terrible driver. It took him 4 tries to get his license. He couldn't figure out how to parallel park, so he blamed it on the car. Then we won't let him parallel park, I said. Okay. But the second reason is he'll make us listen to his gaming music. We'll wear headphones. That'll work. Maybe. Ethan rearranged himself in the desk chair. But there are other reasons, like... I know all the reasons, I interrupted, summoning my confident voice. The one I used when I needed to convince Ethan to help me. I know Tyler's a pain, but we can't ask your parents to take us, and we can't ask my mom to take us. We have to keep the box a secret. Tyler's the only choice. I grabbed the box off the bed and held it in front of Ethan. His face was reflected in its gleaming surface. This is really, 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 really important to me. I need your help. Please? Ethan crossed his arms and grumbled under his breath. Yeah, okay. Yay! I cheered, happy that I was going to solve this mystery, but also happy that Ethan was going to be there with me, because going on this adventure without him would be like going to Disneyland alone. And who wants to ride Space Mountain solo? Now we have to figure out how to convince Tyler. I glanced at the alarm clock next to my bed. It was getting close to dinner time. Mom would be home soon. He's already seen the box and he knows we're trying to solve the puzzle. Do you think I should tell him the truth? It would make things a lot easier. Sure, you can tell him the truth, Ethan said. If you want him to blackmail you for the rest of your life. Remember when he found out I got a D on my history test? I stuffed the test in the bathroom garbage can, and he found it and basically made my life a living hell. I had to dust all of his Star Wars figurines and wash his socks by hand. By hand. Have you smelled Tyler's socks? Yeah, I remember. The blackmail wasn't a surprise. Tyler often used blackmail to enslave us, his lowly relations. What I couldn't understand was how Ethan got such bad grades when his head was so full of so many facts. I stared out the window, my mind seeking some sort of plan. How could we convince Tyler to take us? He thought we were a couple of annoying kids, so he wouldn't care about helping us. We have to give him a reason to go, I said. Something he can't refuse. Ethan shrugged. The only thing he cares about are his trophies and his games. I spun around. That's it. Maybe there's something like a gaming event. I set the box on the desk and squeezed into the chair next to Ethan, my fingers flying across the keyboard. I began to search for events in Washington, D.C. There's a symphony, I read, classical music, there's a cat show, a bunch of plays, there's a geocaching event, there's a lecture by some doctor, there's... Go back, Ethan said. Then he pointed to the geocaching event. I clicked on the link. It's a competition. What kind of competition? Geocaching is like a treasure hunt. You use a global positioning unit to find the treasures. Look, it says anyone can enter, but you need to be in a team of 2 or 3. And then we both said, there's a trophy! This had possibilities. Tyler pursued trophies like a big game hunter. I read farther down the page, then groaned. Crud, it was last week. We missed it. I sank against the chair. It would have been perfect. Luring Tyler with a trophy would have been easier than luring a cat with tuna fish. Wait a minute, I know what to do. I pasted the event's flyer into a new document, then changed the dates to this week. Ta-da! The font doesn't match, Ethan pointed out. He'll notice. He won't notice if I do this. I put the word trophy into a huge bold font, so it almost jumped off the page. Then I snickered. He won't notice anything else. Gravel crunched beneath tires as Mom pulled into the driveway. We'll talk to him in the morning, I said, printing the flyer, then shoving it into my desk. I'll come over right after breakfast. Then I grabbed the box and hid it in the back of my closet under my winter coat. I didn't want to leave it, but I knew it would be safe. Mom never asked me to clean my closet. When he finds out we changed the date, he'll kill us. Ethan warned as we headed downstairs and out the front door. He won't kill us. Then he'll do something worse. Ethan grabbed his bike handles. He'll make us wash his underwear. By hand. At that moment, I couldn't think of anything more disgusting. But it was a risk I was willing to take. Because that box was my birthday present, and I was determined to open it. Curiosity may have killed the cat, but I was no cat. Chapter 7. Jax. Sunday. Bye! I hollered as Mom backed the car out of the driveway. She was leaving early because Sunday was the busiest breakfast day at the Chatham Diner. She waved. I ran upstairs to check on the metal box. It was still sitting in the back of the closet underneath my winter coat. I gave it a little pat and said, Don't worry, you'll be safe. I know it's weird to talk to a box. I checked on it umpteen times during the night. I didn't usually worry about things getting stolen. Why was I so worried about it? After munching a couple handful of Cheerios, I jumped on my bike and rode to Ethan's. The streets were pretty empty. I passed a few joggers. The house where the 2 annoying Dorkies lived was next. Dorkies are half Dachshund and half Yorkie. They raced they raced from their front porch, snarling like rabid hot dogs. Ooh, I'm really scared, I taunted. You guys are totally terrifying. They yapped and lunged, but I managed to swerve around them without causing an accident scene. Ethan's neighborhood was so much nicer than mine. The houses were twice the size and the driveways were paved. His parents were just getting into their BMW when I reached the house. Hi, Jax, Aunt Kathy said. She cropped her hair super short and wore a new pair of red glasses. Kathy was Mom's older sister, and from what I'd figured out, she'd been the good girl growing up, while my mom had been the difficult girl. Kathy went to college and graduate school and got married, while my mom traveled and worked odd jobs and had a baby out of wedlock. Uncle Phil tossed his briefcase into the car. He'd balded early, so all that was left was a narrow strip of hair that wound around the back of his head. But he was still pretty handsome, for an old guy. What do you and Ethan have planned today? He looked at me suspiciously. Moi? I said with a shrug. Just hanging out. Where are you going? We're meeting some clients from China. They've developed a robotic toy dog. Unfortunately, they don't seem to care that it's Sunday. Aunt Kathy smiled. Be sure to eat that barley salad I left in the fridge. It's healthy. Sure, I'll eat the barley salad if it's the very last edible thing on earth. As they drove away, I leaned my bike against the shed, then went into the house. Ethan was eating a bowl of cereal at the kitchen table. Tyler, wearing only a pair of boxers and socks, was standing in front of the refrigerator, staring at the shelves. Hey, Tyler, what you doing? I asked, trying to sound super cheerful. It's best to attract the wasp with honey, not vinegar, as the saying goes. Sustenance, Tyler mumbled. He splurted mustard onto a cold hot dog, then shoved half of it into his mouth. You can get sick if you don't heat those things, Ethan said. You can get listeriosis. That's a super duper interesting factoid, Tyler said, shoving the rest of the dog into his mouth. However, what you didn't take into consideration is that this hot dog is soy, dipstick. He popped open an energy drink and chugged the whole thing. I hate that stuff. I'm bouncy enough without pouring caffeine and sugar down my throat. Clearly, my older cousin didn't care about anything about his appearance. Though he had a somewhat cute face, it was covered in stubble and his nose was pimply. He didn't even bother to wipe the mustard drip from his boxers, and the socks had holes in the heels. Well, nice chatting with you two dorks, he said, followed by a burp, but I gotta get back to the campaign. We're designing a horde of invading harpies to battle the Cyclops King. Tyler slammed the refrigerator door. And he called us dorks? Hey, Tyler, I said, we have something to show you. I held out the flyer. He glanced at it. So? We thought you might want to register. There's a trophy. I said the word trophy real slow. You could probably win. I mean, how hard can it be? You're the smartest guy I know. I almost gagged. Where's my pride? I was practically kissing his feet. He took the flyer, his gaze scanning it with the quick-fire precision of a gamer. Registrations tomorrow in Washington, D.C., he read. Teams of 2 or more. Ethan and I talked it over. I said, we can go as a team. Tyler curled his upper lip. You two? Ethan had been watching the conversation, his spoon held in midair, milk dripping down the handle. I elbowed him. He cleared his throat. We'd rehearsed this line last night over the phone. You know, Mom and Dad won't let you go with your friends, but they might let you go with us. The parental units are total drags about my friends. He scratched his fuzzy chin. Does that mean you want to share the trophy? It's all yours, I assured him. We just want out of Chatham. It's so boring around here. We won't bug you once when we're there. We'll pretend to be on your team, but we can do something else. You don't even have to see us. I don't have to see you? Tyler read the flyer again. Okay. If you can convince the units, then I'm in, but I'm not paying for gas in the hotel. I bet Mom and Dad would pay, Ethan said. Then it's settled. He smashed the can and tossed it into the recycle bin. Gather your field trip permission forms, little dweebs. The quest for the geocached treasure will begin at dawn. He grabbed a loaf of bread, then strode out of the kitchen. He didn't look like someone setting out on a quest, not with his butt crack peeking out on the top of his boxers. Correction, I whispered to Ethan. The quest to open the secret box will begin at dawn.